Hi everyone, my name is Rachel and I'm an intuitive healer. Today we're going to talk about self-doubt. So I feel like I could write an entire book on self-doubt based on my past experiences. For some reason, I remember this one day when I was about 30 years old and I was driving down the Sea to Sky Highway, and rather than taking in the stunning scenery, I had this repetitive thought going around and around. And the thought was, I just want to feel calm and confident. I just want to feel calm and confident. Because calm and confident was the dream back then. Calm and confident was eons away from how I felt. For most of my days, I had extreme anxiety and I was riddled with self-doubt. One of the ways that self-doubt impacted me in my 20s and my early 30s was with employment. I quit a handful of jobs because I didn't feel good enough. So I was afraid that if I continued in that job, inevitably, and this was the story, inevitably that the employer would discover that I wasn't good enough and that I was somehow a failure. And so rather than disappoint them and humiliate myself, I would quit. And I would make up some story of how I was moving on, or create some story as to how I was moving on. And at least one of those jobs I really loved. So I have since learned in doing the work that I do, doing intuitive healing sessions with people, that self-doubt runs rampant. It affects the majority of men and women. For example, and most of the time, it's just that we cover it up or we deny it or we avoid it, but that doesn't mean that it's not impacting us. And so it even impacts people who society deems are successful. So for example, I had this beautiful client recently who, she had this thriving, incredible career. She had lots of nice things, a beautiful family, lots of friends. And when we did a session together, we saw that she had this big shiny facade, like this big shiny wall that she put up, like almost like a piece of art, like a structure. And behind it was her. She was hiding behind it. The fear-based self was hiding behind it. And her fear was, I created this big shiny facade for the world, for people to see, but I don't know if I can live up to it. So how do we soften self-doubt? How do we feel more courage? How do we take some of self-doubt's strength away or hold over us that it has? I'm going to answer that question with a question. Do you know who you really are? Do you know who you really are? Because if you knew who you really are, you would begin to feel that investing so much energy and belief and faith and attention into the fear aspect of us would begin to seem ludicrous to you. Because who you really are is joy, is love, compassion, is strength, is creativity. Because you are a spark of source. Essentially, we are God. We are of the same essence as God. So what then? How does self-doubt even come to be then if that's who we are? Well, most of the time, in most situations, it comes back to childhood. And as we grow up, we have all kinds of different childhood environments and childhood experiences. So some of us grew up in homes where there was volatility and rage and addiction, abuse. In some homes, there was one parent perhaps who was ill, and so there was fear in the home. Perhaps in the home, one or both parents were not available to us, right? Perhaps mom left or dad left, or they were deep in their own pain, so they were emotionally unavailable, or they were unavailable because they were always working, or whatever it is. So we always have these different childhood experiences, and in those environments, there's a certain forgetting that begins to happen. The forgetting of who we essentially are in our core. Because a baby knows that in its soul that it is infinite love, that it is infinite joy. A small child knows. But the forgetting is when certain beliefs begin to develop because based on the environment. Beliefs such as, oh, I'm not good enough because my mom doesn't hear me. My dad doesn't see me. My parents don't validate me. Or I'm not good enough because my younger sibling or older sibling seems to get more attention and love. Or I'm not good enough because my dad is too distracted or too busy or whatever to come to my sporting events and show up for me. Or I'm only good enough if I ace my math test, or if I get straight A's, or if I'm the star soccer player, or if I'm the comedian and making people laugh. So the child essentially learns, I'm not good enough in my authentic self. I'm only good enough if I do these other things, if I behave in a certain way, and even then I might not be good enough. But the only way I can move forward is to try to earn worthiness or to validate myself somehow. And so this takes us away from our truth. It takes us away from our essence and our knowing that we are love, that we are of God. And so then we're all over here trying to validate. And this is essentially what happens. So I'm going to walk through some steps of how to soften the fear, or how to soften the self-doubt, or how to take some of its strength away and offer us more courage and knowing that all is well, and knowing in our confidence. So just as a side note, healing self-doubt or healing buried emotions or healing beliefs is a slightly different approach. So if you want support with revealing and releasing any buried emotions or traumas or fears, etc., please reach out for support, or reach out to someone who is a therapist or a counselor or a energy worker of a different kind. So the first step is to understand that you have a choice. In any given moment, you have a choice of what you align with. We unconsciously, without really paying attention, often align with the fear aspect of us, with the fear-based self. And what we do is we go into it and we invest so much energy and attention into it, it feels like it's everything. It feels like it is who we are, but that's not the truth. So we have in any given moment the choice to align with the soul self. So that's the first step, is just to understand that it is your choice. And second step is to know where you are at. So what are you aligned with? So you tune into your body. Okay, am I feeling open and expansive and patient? Does my heart feel like it's open and I feel compassion for others and understanding of myself and compassion for myself? Or do I feel tense and rigid and stressed and scattered and just overwhelmed? And do I feel constricted in my body? Does my body feel tense? Does my heart feel closed? So does it feel like there's literally like a wall or a shield in front of the heart? Or is the behavior that you're judging yourself or judging others, or blaming yourself or blaming others? Those are signs that you're in the ego, in the fear-based self. So step 2 is to know where you're at. So then step 3 is to then align with the soul self. So open your heart And this takes discipline and practice, the discipline and practice of an athlete. It's not going to happen overnight. In fact, you'll find yourself practicing it multiple times throughout the day. Where am I at? How does my body feel? Oh, I'm tense and rigid and I'm impatient and I'm barking at my kids. Okay, breathe. Open your heart. Drop the shoulders. Right? Soften the body. All right. Feel that lightness. Feel the light in you. Feel the expansiveness in you. And now the third step is to hold, to essentially embrace the aspect of you that is aligned with fear, the fear-based aspect of you. Now, this is perhaps counterintuitive. Like, what do you mean embrace the fear? But what happens often is that we banish that any aspect of ourselves that does not feel good. So it's like, oh, self-doubt, okay, creepy, I don't like that feeling. Banish her, ignore her, avoid her, pretend she doesn't exist, push her down, deep down within you. But trust me, she's not gonna go away that way. It's not gonna become resolved, because essentially she's gonna claw back up and try and get your attention. She's gonna become louder, or you'll suddenly feel even more insecure, or even more triggered, or even more fearful, or more questioning of who you are, or comparing yourself to others, or whatever it is. It'll become louder, or more aggressive, or sneakier. So we embrace the fear. So what does that look like? It's like a mother, a loving, patient mother, holding a child who is crying or even screaming, tantruming. So rather than telling the child, okay, you're bad, go in the room and cry on your own. No, we patiently, some people do that, but that's not that helpful. We patiently hold the child, saying it's okay. It's okay to feel what you're feeling, and it's okay. Everything's okay. So you allow your soul self to hold the fear-based you in your arms, the arms of your soul, the arms of your light, the arms of your infinite love, your eternal self. You hold the fear-based self, the woman inside you, the girl inside you who doesn't feel good enough. You hold her and you say, it's okay. I understand that you don't feel well right now. I understand that you feel insecure or afraid or lost. And it's okay. Now you see the difference, because you are aligned with the soul, with this infinite power that is source, that is within you. And from this loving place, you hold the human part of you who is in fear, who has fear for whatever reasons, often from earlier years. So this, by returning to the seat of love, your authenticity, aligning with this, you're able to hold the fear-based part of you and soften it and take some of its strength away. So if you'd like help in revealing and releasing any buried emotions or fears or held beliefs, please reach out. I'd be happy to work with you. It would be my honor. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time.